Hi. Okay, so today we're talking about Chapter 3, Section 5, Slopes of Lines. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to get really excited right now because this is a review from algebra. Our objective today is to find the slope of a line and to use slopes to identify parallel and perpendicular lines. Should be something that you remember at least a little bit from what we did or from what you did last year, either in my classroom or in Mr. Coe's classroom. What I want you to do right now is pause the video so you can write your essential question. I also want you to look for your agendas so that you can find that DOK chart. DOK stands for depth of knowledge, and it's going to help you write better essential questions so that your summaries are better as well. So first we're going to start out by talking about slope of a line. You have the rise, which is your change in y values. This triangle means delta. It means change or difference. So the change in y values, or the vertical change, over the change in the x values, delta x, difference in the x values, horizontal change is going to give you your slope. So slope is your change in y over your change in x. The vertical change over the horizontal change. And you should remember the slope formula, which is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, and this is the same as this, so the change in y over the change in x. Over here we've got a problem that I want you to work out. We have your a value and your b value for this point, 2, 3, and 7, 5. My suggestion is to label which one you want to be your first point and your second point. So we're going to call this my x sub 1 and my y sub 1. And this is going to be my x sub 2 and my y sub 2. This is always a good idea for you to label, or if you can keep it in mind, not switch them around, then that's fine. So your directions for this are to find the slope. If you want to go ahead and pause the video, do it on your own, and then check back in with me when you're done to see if it matches. That's a good idea. I have the change in y over the change in the x values. My y values are going to be 3 minus 5. My x values are going to be 2 minus 7. The 3 take away 5 gives me a negative 2. The 2 minus 7 is going to give me a negative 5, which gives me a positive 2/5 for my slope. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. There are a lot of different ways to remember the basics of a slope. One of the ways is to know the story about my friend Max. My friend Max has a disease. His disease is that he can only move to the right. So here's my friend Max facing to the right. And here's my friend Max climbing this line. Well, when Max walks along a positive slope, he walks up. So that helps you remember that that's a positive slope. When my friend Max starts to walk down this slope, he's walking down. Means he has a negative slope. If my friend Max is walking across this line, he's neither moving up nor down. He's not making any change. Now he's on a 0 slope. My friend Max is walking to the right, and he's on this line here. He's going to step off the edge and fall and land into a bunch of little pieces, and he is no longer recognizable as my friend Max. Now he is undefined. It's a cute way to remember. Another way is a 0 slope is a horizontal line. It's the beginnings of the letter Z. An undefined slope is also known as a line that has no slope, and a vertical line is the beginnings of a letter N. So whatever works for you, but these 4 things are something that you should already know and need to remember. Okay, theorem time. I thought I'd get a little more creative with the theorems. So here we go. Parallel lines theorem. If you want the actual wording for the theorem, open your book and check it out. Some of you might want to write that down. But what it basically means is you need to ask yourself, do they have the same slope? If the answer is yes, then they're parallel. The perpendicular lines theorem, you need to ask yourself, if you multiply the slopes and you get a -1 as the answer, if your answer is yes, then that means that they're perpendicular. Alright, so now we're going to put some of this stuff into practice. Here's your first example. I have line WX, and these are the points for W and X. I have line YZ, and these are the points for Y and Z. Again, if you want to pause the video, try it for yourself because you think you know how to do it, and then come back after you're done so you can check to see if you did it right. I think that's a good idea. Alright, let's do this together. I've got WX, and I want to find the change in Y over the change in X. My Y values here are 1 and -2, so I'm going to start at the top, and I'm supposed to subtract -2. Over, then I've got 3 minus 3. Be careful with these negatives. Sometimes students see the negative from the number and they forget to put the minus sign that goes in the formula. So minus a negative right there. 1 minus a -2 gives me a +3 on top. 3 minus 3 gives me a 0 on the bottom. Can't have a 0 in the denominator, so this is an undefined slope. That means it's a vertical line. Alright, so now let's do YZ. Still need the change in Y over the change in X. So my change in Y values here, my Y values, I've got 3 minus 3 over the change in the X values. Again, still going from the top down because that's what I did on the other one. I have -2 minus 4. The 3 minus 3 gives me a 0. A -2 and a -4 give me -6. And 0 divided by a -6 is 0. This is the horizontal line. So because this is the vertical line, this is the horizontal line, my slopes are perpendicular. Let's try another one. Again, pause the video, work it out yourself, then come back and check to see if you got the right answer. I have line KL and line MN. Same thing, I need to find delta Y over delta X. My change in Y values, I'm going to start from the top down. I have 4, whoops, almost forgot that negative. 4 minus a -3 over a -4 minus a -2. My 4 minus a -3 gave me a +7. 4 minus a -2, these are adding, will give me a -2. Okay, so that's my line KL. KL has a slope of 7 over -2. MN, change in Y over the change in X. My Y values, 1 minus a -1 over 3 minus a -5. 1 take away a -1, that's plus, so I have 2 over 3 minus a -5 gives me an 8. And they're not parallel, they're not perpendicular, they're neither.